Well, hey, everybody. It is Tuesday, August 1st. For anyone who cares, tomorrow is Rosie's 52nd birthday, and I'm just busting her out right now because it's fun. And I'll get punched or pillow therapy later for it because, that's how we do. So I hope everyone is doing well today. We have an interesting show. It's the Jeff and Charley. I can't talk all day long today. I don't even know why. I'm just going to bring Jeff in. Look at that picture right there, just staring at his neck. He's all leaned into the camera. It was inappropriate to pull him up right there, but I did it anyhow because it was fun.
I was messing with my connections.
It would have been fun if you were picking your nose. Nice. What?
Just because we've gotten information that we shouldn't show these, I'm showing it because we're just rebels that way.
I've got a flock. I don't know how to point. I'm backwards. Look at that. The timing is perfect.
Yes.
Sorry. So let's see who all we got here. Hamey was first today at 2 p.m. precisely. He was absolutely first. And I've actually saved a bunch of comments from him that we need to dip back into. They're already favorited from like 2 o'clock today.
Okay.
There's
cool.
a whole string of them we need to go through there. I think it's there was some cool stuff in there. So we got Hamey, we got Craig Hutchinson is all up in here earlier too. I wonder if Craig's here. I bet Craig is here now, but he was here earlier. And we were talking about reliability of trucks earlier in the chat. They were, I should say. Anyhow, that's what that is about. James Vaughn is somewhere around here. Chris the Trucker, James Vaughn, there he is. Chris the Trucker, stating the obvious, not first. Good on you, sir. Good. And he said, howdy from New Mexico. Jonah Green, good to see you. Let's see. Trucking with Flyer Rabbit. Man, it's been a minute since I've seen you. Glad to have you. Nice that you dropped in. Hope things are going well for you over at that other place you went to. I can't remember where you went to. I knew, but now I don't know. I think you got did you get an SFI truck? I think maybe. I don't know. Anyhow, good to see you. Glad you're here. John C., good to see you. Oh, yeah, look, there's Craig. Craig's here.
Hey, Craig.
Oh, Blackbeard. Howdy, y'all. Matt Nissen, one of my favorite people in the world to hug.
Then why did you steal his load the other day?
You know what?
Never did resolve that.
I just didn't even acknowledge the comment in the Facebooks. I just scrolled right past. I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I had nothing to do with it. Matt, I had nothing to do with it. I didn't know you had a load to Memphis. I didn't know you lost the load to Memphis, and I miraculously got a T-call in Memphis. It was going to Mississippi. The load was originally. Just saying. Michael Ford.
Yardy.
Yeah.
I like
Christensen
that
Transport.
For some reason.
That's right. My bad, dude. I could not remember. There was a bunch of y'all that had made a jump, and I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember who had made which jump, which direction. You know what I'm saying. So today is we're going to be getting into this here shortly. Is going to be our grudge match. Oh, I just like watching Jeff move around like this.
Thanks to Donna for making that happen.
Yes, Donna, I love you so much. Oh my God, it's great. Oh, so you know what? Let's do this fuel surcharge thing real quick, and then we can jump into our discussion where I say that you're dumb and you say that I'm dumb, and Colton says we're both idiots, and we're gonna get this sorted out. So yeah, let's do the fuel surcharge. By the way, if anyone wants to call in and chat today with myself, Jeff, or Colton, the number scrolling across the bottom of the screen. The phones are up. Be patient. Sometimes I forget to look over on that screen. But call the number and tell the crazy bot that answers the phone some cool things. Maybe your name. That would be helpful. And it'll completely screw up the translation. It'll be fun. It's always a fun thing when that goes down. So let's jump into the fuel surcharge. I almost clicked on the Seabright ad instead of the fuel surcharge, so that would have been interesting as well. So this week's national average went up quite a bit. We had a huge jump of 0.222. up to 4.127 this week. The West Coast Pad 5 diesel fuel cost average went up 19, almost 20 cents itself this week to 4.753. That's going to bring the Swift transportation regular standard OTR dispatch miles fuel surcharge. I made that so many more words than it needed to be, up to 0.475. That's a change of 0.039, almost 4 cents. The West Coast fuel surcharge barely stayed at 10 because the disparity is decreasing between the West Coast and national. And Jeff has a whole opinion about that because we kind of got into some of that today, and he was a little hot. I mean, he's like, I'm gonna tell people.
Was not.
He was. He don't listen to him. I heard him. He was getting fired up. Anyhow, but there's your numbers.
I just simply use it as part of my argument that people should move out of California.
You know, that's a good argument. I'm just saying. But anyhow, so let's get out of this and let's jump into something else. Let me close this. And look, it's both of us back again. So we should just go ahead and bring Colton up. I believe Colton's there and ready. Hey, Colton Lawrence, Trucker CFO. He is our CFO. I hope he's
there.
What's up, man?
Hey, so did you know that 22-cent jump on the fuel price? That was, it ranks up there with Katrina and with when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's very unusual. In fact, I'm not aware of another time that the week over week increase has happened like that without some kind of geopolitical or natural disaster type event causing it to happen.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if do you know of anything that triggered this one? Because I tried to look around and I was like, there's nothing.
Yeah, no, it's just yeah, I mean, it's been on a climb of late, right? And so it's just something happened. I wish I knew. I was on the radio on Sirius XM this morning talking about it, and there's just nothing that sticks out like Katrina or Russia invading Ukraine type event. So unfortunately, the fuel surcharge isn't going to catch up near as quick.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, for us, it does pretty well.
Well, but also, you know, the fuel surcharge we get at Swift is trailing. So when it goes down, it also trails.
Right. It lags.
So it does even out over time.
But it's funny because, I mean, even right now, I mean, I went through and did some math today because I was talking to Jeff Reese earlier on some stuff we were working on. And I think I came up with 7.64-ish, somewhere around 7.64 if I was to utilize ES Advantage's fuel card this week, which I didn't. But had I used ES Advantage's fuel card this week with their average cost for the price per gallon this week, I only would have needed to do 7.65 miles per gallon to hit that break-even zero mark on fuel with the fuel surcharge. Without it, however, I had to do 8.65 to hit zero, but I did manage to do that. I think I'm pretty close this week. I had a really bad fuel mileage week this week. Like I screwed up my 30, 60, 90 and my lifetime averages this week took a hit because of that 112 billion degree heat everywhere we went. You know, I had to come to Florida to get the first time that I had under 80 degrees at any point in time for every 24-hour period for like the last 5 days. I had to get to Florida, the Florida state line, to see anything under 80 degrees.
That tells you something. Wow, that's crazy.
The world is broken, man.
Yeah. My brother lives in Chandler outside of Phoenix, and he sent me a calendar of the last 30 days. Is like the lowest is like 112 with highs around 119, 120. It's insane.
Right. Yeah, it's been completely insane. All right, let's let you know what, we should get into this because I think people are gonna get bored of Jeff and I here anyhow, and they'd rather ask you questions.
So Charley and I had an argument a few weeks ago.
Because you're wrong.
We already determined what the answer is, and that's not the correct answer.
Correct answer is, I'm right.
Maybe. So it has been pointed out to us that people think that Charley and I always agree, and we do not. So we thought that we would bring this argument to you, our viewers, in public, so you can see how we do the numbers. So, Charley, you are thinking that you want to lease new trucks from now on, which is a total 180 for you.
It's an absolute 180.
So,
100%.
and I still feel the same way I do. Pay the dang truck off. So let's start going. Let's first go over the numbers, and then we'll go over.
Well, let me lay out my argument here first, and why it is that I've done this 180. My feeling is because of my health and life and things, right? I am quickly, my body is deteriorating, right? We all know truck driving is really hard on your body to start with. And then I spent the last 8 years in Chewy, which was not helpful to me at all. Let's just be real. You know, I didn't upgrade the suspension probably like I should have, would have took less wear and tear on my body. But because of all the things, you know, the Army injuries and all these other things, you know, my back, my neck, I had surgery last August. You know, things things like that. It's getting to the point where I'm not sure how much longer I can physically do this thing that we love, right? Driving. And I love driving. There's it's not that I want to quit driving. It's that I don't know that I can physically do it. So that got me thinking, well, okay, you know, I am in the middle of, well, I'm a year into leasing this truck, the option to purchase at the end. And the numbers don't make sense to me if I'm not going to be able to drive more than, say, 5 years. You know, and that is a very real possibility. Every year as it is now, I really have to reevaluate whether or not I can continue doing what I'm doing the way that I'm doing it. So with that in mind, am I better to, you know, finish this lease, or look, I have a side deal. If I decide not to continue, if I decide not to purchase this truck and just do leases, I have offered to put Michelle Cantrell's face on the hood of my truck, hood size, with her phone number, if she'll lease me a new truck every year. She has told me absolutely not. That's not going to happen, but I'm going to keep working that angle. But with that said, let's run some numbers. So my total truck lease, including my buyout, is $201,000 from start to finish on just lease payments, including the balloon payment. And my balloon payment is $86,000 at the end of 4 years. That's a lot. I mean, it's a lot. You know, I initially planned on doing that very thing and setting aside money to pay the truck off and all that sort of thing. But yeah, so, you know, July 18th of 2026 is the last payment that I have to make until the balloon payment, right? So this is the way I've been breaking it down and the way that I'm looking at things. I'm factoring in the resale market, right? At the end of my lease, I owe that $86,314. I'm looking at trucks on Truck Paper right now. The prices have been sliding. I believe Colton can back me up on that. I'm sure Jeff has seen it as well. Trucks right now that are in that 4-year-old range that are hitting Truck Paper right now today, so that's 2019 and 2020 trucks, are selling on average between $55,000 and $70,000. Right? So there's no resale on it right now. If I tried to sell my truck on truckpaper.com right now, 2023 with approximate 143,000 miles, the going rate right now is about $155,000, which is a magical number because that's technically the initial sale price of this truck. Interesting, right? So, but as of right now, I am $183,600 that I owe on this truck. as of this week, as of the 5th of August. That is my stipulated loss value, according to my contract. So with all of those things being in there, I'm going to pay $114,000 worth of lease payments to get to July 18th of 2026. And then I got to produce 86,000 on a truck that probably wouldn't be worth 86,000. Now, again, I can't foresee the future. I can't guess what this market's going to. 2 years ago, this would have absolutely been a no-brainer. Pay the 86,000 and sell it for 150 same day.
Mm-hmm.
What's
we saw guys do that.
Right. We saw people buy brand new trucks and double their money in the same day, not even having taken possession of the truck yet. That's just crazy to me. But the reality is I have all of these health things, right? That, I'm getting old. I'm getting worried about some of these things and my body's not holding up. So with that, but there are other things to factor in, and Jeff's definitely going to jump on those, like the cost of insurance, the cost of ownership over time. My argument is I don't know that I can make 10 years.
Right.
And I'm going to throw it back at you.
So my argument is cost of ownership over the useful life of a truck, period. Especially knowing what we know now after last week's show, talking to Bruce Mallison and those guys about how these engines very well might go 200,000 miles without needing or 2 million miles without needing a rebuild on the engine. So what we thought before, even when I paid this truck off, my numbers weren't that high because it's a 2016 and the market was what we called reasonable back then.
Right.
Colton, I gave you my number and I'm having a senior moment. What was my final, what did I pay total for this truck?
So you paid total 176,000. That included your $42,000 balloon payment financed at 15% over 9 months.
Right. So a couple things here. Papa Swift will not finance these anymore.
No.
I was one of the last people to get that deal. They decided to get out of the money lending business completely.
It's a smart move, really.
Well, they had too many people default on them. That's just the reality. And even at that interest rate, the risk reward ratio wasn't there for them. So I had anticipated having to spend pretty soon here. Actually, I'm going to turn 900,000 miles old probably in the next day or two. And what we thought before was that's about the time you're going to need to drop $40,000 to $50,000 on an in-frame rebuild, right? Well, that's no longer a factor apparently. And I can attest to that. You guys know I do my oil sampling and all that stuff. My engine, my oil samples look like a brand new engine.
It's crazy.
There's nothing in it.
No signs of wear metal.
I do have that. Nothing. Not even any potassium, which you would think, because that's an indicator of injectors starting to go bad. You would think at almost 1 million miles I'd have to replace some injectors or something, right?
Right.
Nothing. The only problem I have with my truck at all is a Detroit issue. The base of the oil drops unexpectedly fast.
That seems to be an oil issue, not a truck issue at this point.
I thought they said it was mostly the Cummins though, or the Detroits.
Bruce said last week that they're starting either on our show or on the Power Hour that they're putting in a less base in the oil at the manufacturing
because the truck's not using them.
Right.
And I'm doing the extended oil drain, so that means I've got to beef up my oil, which is not a big deal. You buy a bottle of that Hot Shot Secret, whatever, I can't remember what it's called, but it's an oil additive. You put that in, it puts the additive package back in.
Right.
So I'm not faced with that $50,000 bill. That changes the calculus.
It does.
100%. So on Charlie's truck, and I'm with, where was that? There was somebody said go buy a new used truck, and I do think that where Charlie's at with his balloon payment, that's something to consider that we weren't considering in our argument, is to get to that point, save, the $86,000, but go buy a truck for 70 from Aero Truck Sales. Because as long as it's under 5 years old, you can bring it into Swift. So that's something that we should probably consider as well. But over the life of these newer trucks, 2 million miles, Charlie's running a team operation. I'm running a solo operation. So it's a little different there as well. My solo operations, I've had this truck for 6 years. Yeah, 6.5 years. And I'm not at 1 million miles to get. And I mentored with this truck for the first 3 years I had it. So chances are I won't hit that critical mark until I'm ready to retire on this truck.
And I did factor in that based on Rosie and I's typical yearly miles, that at the end of the lease in 26, we should be between 500 and 600,000 miles on the truck.
Okay.
And Jeff, what was the retail price on your truck new? Had you bought it?
They were going for about 110 at the dealerships at the time.
Colton's doing mad numbers behind us here. It's great.
So and we brought this up to Colton at Trucker CFO, and you guys have heard us say it before. Doing a lease at Swift is probably the easiest way to get a truck.
Yes.
It is not the cheapest way to get a truck.
No.
You
will never hear us say that.
You will never hear us say that. But you got to do what you feel is right for your business.
I also think you need to look at where you are in the course of your career.
Right. So my argument, I think, works better, Charlie, because we talked about this. Yes, we disagree, and we'll get to that, why we actually disagree on this. But, someone that's a little younger than Charlie that could actually drive the truck for 2 million miles,
right?
That changes things.
I'm not putting 2 million miles on any truck now.
Because one of the things I asked Colton to try and figure out is what's the return on investment on that $202,000. Obviously all but about 86 of it is just paid for by the business in that 4 years.
Right.
So we're looking at $86,000 now, and you've got enough Swift clients now where you kind of have a read on what we're doing, right, Colton? So you can at least come up with some sort of estimate. I know I estimated about
rough temperature.
I know that I did my math based on having to spend the $40,000 for an M-frame about now, and I figured that my ROI was going to be about 3 years. I needed to drive this truck another 3 years for it to pay for itself. Am I in the ballpark there?
You're in the ballpark, and just give you some numbers here. So your total cost was $176,000. That's the number you gave me.
Mm-hmm.
Had you financed it at $110,000 purchase price, let's say your interest rate is somewhere between 8 and 16%. The total cost on that would have been somewhere between $145,000 and $160,000 to have financed it versus leasing it. Okay. Charlie, your numbers
are gonna hurt my feelings.
You gave me $201,000.
Correct.
And your number comes in at $204,000 at the same calculation, and that's assuming a retail rate had you purchased it of $155,000. So you can see what that tells me is, one, there's a difference in the market from when Jeff first got in his truck to when Charlie got in his. Charlie, you said yours is a year old, right?
Correct. It's a 2023 with 143,000 on it right now.
Yeah. So you got into it at the peak, or near the peak of truck prices.
It was.
Yeah. Jeff, you got into yours before COVID. I'd have to go back and look at exactly what the market was back then. My recollection says that it was not up or down, that we were just kind of somewhere in the middle.
Right.
Reasonable prices. It was before all the the chip issues and everything hit us. So what I'm getting at is one of the factors to consider is what is not only the used truck market doing, but what is the new truck market doing?
Right.
At the time you buy it, and also at the time you're going to sell it. All of those things play into this, and you can see those differences in your numbers, because the numbers, the way they play out is it says to Charley, you came out a little bit ahead going with the lease option. Jeff, you came out at least up front, not factoring in the full cost of ownership.
Right.
You came out a little bit behind going with the lease option. So anyway, I'll stop there and let you guys tear into each other again.
So I just want to put in there, Colton, that's assuming you can qualify for a loan.
Right.
First of all. And it's famously difficult unless you're like, so my parents are the type of people that have been freeloading on their super platinum Visa cards for the last 40 years and have an 800 credit score.
Right.
My dad could finance an island.
Moon.
You know, my generation, and I know you're of the same generation, Colton, and this will drive you nuts because you're a CPA, but our generation just is not that good with credit. Would that be fair to say?
It's fair to say, yeah. And it's also important for folks to understand that although credit score is important when it comes to these types of purchases, it's less important than the cash that you have available to put down.
Right.
And that's why we see so many of our clients coming to us, and we see these 18, 20, I mean, frankly, predatory type loans in terms of the interest rates. And they really need to avoid those.
Right.
The other thing is you can end up in the same situation in a lease where you don't actually see the implied interest rate because they just bake it into the lease. And those are all things you need to understand. If you need to know how to run these numbers, you need to know how to take a lease and pull out of it what the implied interest rate would be. You need to know when you're going to talk to somebody about getting financing, whether they're kind of taking advantage of you because of your credit and finance situation. So yes, I said between 8 and 15% in using my numbers. That's because if you are any more than 15% or an implied interest rate of more than 15% on a lease, even with the rates where they're at today, you probably ought to reconsider.
Right.
Because there's some funny business going on there potentially. So anyway, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Jeff.
So let me throw another wrench into the calculus then, just for fun. If we look at the truck I'm in now and the trucks that are out like it, say 22, 23, 24s, and those coming up, right? There's this constant push to increase fuel mileage. Jeff, your lifetime is what? Right around
7.83.
7.83. I'm looking at a lifetime fuel mileage average right now of 8.97. I did hit 9, and then I had a really bad week that dropped me those 3 points, which just hurt my feelings this week.
So just to make the numbers easy, you're saving, I'm spending $10,000 more a year for fuel than you are.
Right.
To make the math easy.
Roughly the same miles. I typically calculate between 100, 125,000 miles a year. Average solo. Rosie and I typically don't run much higher than solo miles. I think we're on track right now to probably do somewhere in the 170 range, right? I think we'll see how the rest of the year goes. It's really kind of up in the air. So I've also been factoring that, the fuel savings, technology that's coming out that is hopefully going to make these trucks better. But of course, we all know, looking back to what was it, 2017, 2018, where technology was not your friend in the new truck market. And you ran into $40,000-$50,000 worth of repairs that, the warranty covered, but you were down for a month.
Right.
And maybe
whereas I either fix the truck myself,
right,
or I get put to the front of the line because I'm stroking a check.
Right. Cash talks. That's just how it is. And that was the beauty of it when I had Chewy. However, now I fall into this warranty thing. And anybody who's listened to me for any kind of time knows that I'm not a fan of warranties. One of the reasons that I have toyed with this whole thing, and I'm trying to talk Michelle into letting me lease a truck, every 2 years would be awesome, would be the cost of maintenance in that first year or two. Wow, you really scared me with your eyeball so close. The cost of maintenance, like right now, I have put zero maintenance into this truck other than the required service intervals, 50,000, 100,000, and I'm about to do 150,000 now.
So you know what my maintenance cost was last year, Charlie? Since my taxes are finally done by that other people that we don't mention. $4,400 was my maintenance cost last year.
That was a good year for maintenance, honest to God.
I mean, so you remember the last year I was leasing that 2012 was like 25 grand. So I'm really happy with that. But keep in mind, guys, that's me doing my own work on a lot of it and getting parts from Swift when I can, because we get that cost plus, and doing my own wrenching. The only thing I can't do right now, after Alan and Charlie have educated me a little bit, is if I have to open the engine, I don't do that. But all the external stuff, I just do it.
I want to jump into Tom Bell's question there. What's your fuel cost in cents per mile over the last 30 days? And I can tell you it's 0.45.
Is it though?
Well, no, you're right.
Tom Bell, there's a fuel surcharge to consider. Do you want us to do that calculation, or you just want the raw numbers? Because mine is an embarrassing 44 cents a mile. I'm usually lower than that. That's the raw number. But our fuel surcharge, I think it hit the low at like 41 cents, right?
Right.
So if you count the fuel surcharge in there, I'm at 3 cents a mile.
Right.
It
depends on which calculus we're using.
Right. I tend to do it the way you're probably thinking, just looking at the raw number, and I look at my fuel surcharge as part of my compensation package. But there is that, if you really wanted to get like crazy into it and calculating out what you're really paying for fuel, is kind of fun.
Right.
Especially when that number turns into a negative number, because the fuel surcharge is paying you more than what you're buying the fuel for. That's awesome. And my 30-day is just terrible. I'm at 6.75 again because of the heat.
Right. And that was my issue. That's because what were we at before? Do you remember what? I think I was at 0.43 when we talked about this the other day. Mm-hmm. And between that trip from Lancaster to here, I jumped 2 cents overall, which it's that crazy price jump we saw this week. So, so Tom Bell says he's right. The same thing about 45 cents a mile, and he's a company driver, and he checks it, which is awesome because he uses Let's Truck to calculate his, and he watches it religiously.
Yeah, you mean this?
Exactly. And that's where we're both generating our numbers from as well. So that's a good thing.
So interesting thing, squirrel.
Interesting
thing is that I was listening to Rutherford last week, and he had that Volvo guy, the dude that's getting a legitimate 10 miles to the gallon, that guy.
Yep.
In his Volvo.
He's a Kevin.
And he was talking that, so we're going to have to look into this, Charlie, because he was saying that he does not use Let's Truck when he posts his numbers. He pulls it off the ECM.
Interesting.
With his ECM reader.
Right.
He said the newer trucks are they're accurate, I guess. So we might have to change our thinking on that a little bit.
Right.
So are either one of you running APUs?
Not yet. After this summer, though, I'm telling you, by next summer, I'm going to have one.
The math has never penciled out for Rosie and I ever.
Yeah. So that's another good calculation to run, especially if you're going to be in the heat, is check out what the ROI is on that.
This was so rare for Rosie and I to be parked the way we were these last 2 weeks. It was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, normally they're running, and the only time they shut down is at night when they're at the DC waiting for their load. So let me ask you something. We're going to end up with a lot of squirrels here, Charlie, I think. Yeah. On the APU, when we do that calculation, so there's a tax credit for clean energy for that, right? That you get. Does that actually pay for the APU over 3-4 years, or is it not enough?
Did you say Charlie or Colton?
Colton.
Oh, that's
Charlie's
not
not
me
going to know that.
Sorry.
I thought I heard Charlie, so I was waiting for Charlie to answer. I was looking
My
forward to
bad.
it.
Because I know that
Right.
there's this tax credit out there. There's the
Well,
fuel
yeah, Jeff, what we're
savings.
talking about here is you're definitely going to pay that off in about 3 months. Oh, wait, no, I'm wrong.
So that Colton, we get that all the time. Well, I did the calculations and it's a 3-month ROI on a $13,000 piece of equipment. Really?
Yeah.
I'd buy one then. Hell.
Yeah.
I mean, the last time I did the calculations, I was thinking closer to 15 months, all told.
Yeah. That's something that I'm going to have to pull for you, and update my memory on what exactly the credit is for an APU. She'll have to bring me on again, and we can talk about that.
Wimpy McPote, absolutely. We are damn penny pinchers. I'm trying to figure out how to save a quarter penny a mile because those quarter pennies turn into pennies. Those pennies turn into dimes. Those dimes turn into dollars, and dollars turn into happiness, yo, or something like that. My bad. I can't help it. I love those comments. Excuse me. So again, going back to my argument, looking at what the technology could be in, let's say, 26. Let's say I'm finally mastered this thing, and let's say I have a solid 9 come 2026 in this truck. Who's to say we're not at solid 11s in the 26-year model trucks?
Yeah. Well,
Does it start penciling out?
So sorry, 1 second. I got to make a comment on that last comment.
Go for it.
The transportation industry historically is a business with margins in the pennies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so when you get people that aren't saving those pennies, they're not going to be very successful. You need every penny over the course of your time driving, because when you're talking, especially if you start getting into these operations where they're driving fleets, I mean, you're talking, you look at the mega carriers, they've got 3, 4, maybe 7, 8 cents per dollar margins. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, every penny counts. And I don't care if you're making 35 pennies on the dollar. I'd rather 36 pennies on the dollar. So yeah, save every penny you can. Why not? And the best way to do that is to watch your pennies with these types of things we're talking about. Sorry, that's me getting on my soapbox.
No, I dig it, man.
Yeah.
That's a box I will die on. I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, think about how excited you guys got the last time we had a rate increase. It was 3 cents.
Right.
Now, to the uninitiated, they're like, what, 3 cents a mile? You
and there
calculate
was a lot
that
of
out. You calculate that out over 100,000 miles a year. That's a nice little raise.
So So going back to the possibility of fuel increases, things like that. I'm really seriously contemplating this not paying off the truck and just simply turning in the truck, using it as a rental fee, changing my mindset and my business model to match that, to where now I'm renting equipment because that's the way I have to look at it or my brain will explode, versus owning the equipment, right? Because I own Chewy. God, I own Chewy for 8 years. I bought it at 490,000 miles. She's got 1.8 million miles on her right now. I mean, I put a lot of miles on that truck, me and students and Rosie and just all kinds of stuff, right? And I mean, the largest expense I ever had on that truck, the largest single expense, was the in-frame that I did it just over 900,000 miles. The second would be the transmission. I put in $1.2 million, something like that. The only thing I never changed in that thing, I didn't change the rear ends. I've never had a problem with the rear ends. I get I used to get it checked out every year. No metal chunks, bits, pieces, none of that. Because I service the rear ends at least once a year. Things like that. I tried to stay up on my maintenance to keep the truck going. The only reason I started getting worried about Chewy was all of the seals between all of the big layers were starting to weep, because It's a 2007 truck that's never had those big ones changed. And they're starting to weep a little bit, right? So I thought, well, okay, we're getting into a weird place. And then talking to Bruce and Pete last week, they're like, you're probably right at the usable life of the block itself. So if you did have to rebuild it, there's a high likelihood that I would have to replace the block itself. So now in those Series 60 Detroits, we're looking, and if I'm taking it to Pittsburgh or having anyone do this out of frame or a complete engine swap, I'm now going to be up in that $60,000-$70,000 range, because if I'm doing it, I'm going to do it so this thing is good for another 1,000,000 miles at least, right? And I'm going to get all the bells and whistles to increase my fuel mileage and everything I can do there. So that's where the price tag was. But then in July of last year, when I was talking to them about this thing, they said, well, yeah, and here's a problem. It could take us months to do this because of parts and the scarcity of the Series 60 parts, because now all these blocks are starting to get to the end of their life, their usefulness. They're all now starting to get in that 2 million mile mark, which is kind of a problem. So going back to that, seeing clearly new truck prices are going to continue to go up. I'm sure it's just historical.
They never go down.
Right. Because of new technology and things like that and all the bells and whistles that they add. Anyone who wants to argue about all the fancy alarms and all that, I don't care. I get used to it. Whatever. It's a thing. It's fine. It's actually made me a better driver, honestly. The lane departure stuff and all that, honestly, has made me a better driver. I was a lazy driver before I got in this Freightliner. I realized just how lazy I was. I'm so used to driving on the white line. It's crazy. Now in this truck is like, I'm like, oh crap, stop it. Keeps me more alert. I don't know. Keeps me centered in the lane better. Things like that. Anyhow. So my thought behind it is, if I can go 5, 6, 7 years, I don't know. There's a likelihood that it could pencil out. My problem is that in 2026, I'm not sure that I'm going to make it to 28 and keep driving. And I'm going to dump $86,000 in that truck on the balloon payment, which, if the market holds true to what it normally does, will not be worth $86,000. Because, yeah.
So how many more years do you think you personally could have continued driving Chewy, assuming everything maintenance wise was good, it didn't break? How much more could your body have taken in Chewy?
Probably not another year.
Yeah.
Honest to God. I seriously thought about it in last August that I was done trucking. I didn't know that I was going to come out of the surgery and be able to drive.
Yeah. So that's another component here to factor in is how much more revenue are you going to make over the course of your career,
right,
by making the switch to a newer truck,
right,
as opposed to Rosie, or excuse me, as opposed to Chewy.
Right.
You got
right.
all these names, man. I'm having a hard time with names.
I had inappropriate jokes I was about to throw out about riding things, but I'll just stop there. My bad. I apologize.
So let's say that a 26 truck does get 11 miles to the gallon, which I don't think that's going to be a thing, but okay. So that means that you're going to save, versus a guy doing 8, again, making easy napkin math here, $30,000 a year in fuel. Okay. Which means over the course of a 4-year lease, you're in the money by $120,000 in saved fuel. What's the total lease payments over 4 years?
201, I think is what he said.
No, it would be the 150. Excuse me, 114.
Total lease payments.
859 total lease payments.
How much, Charlie?
114,859 right now, currently at the 670 rate.
So that puts you in the money at the end of a lease, assuming that the 11 miles per gallon, of $5,141, give or take. That's assuming that they get to that point, though.
Right. I think it's possible. I mean, 5 years ago we were saying we wouldn't hit 10,
Well,
and we've got a lot of 10s out there now.
You remember when you and I first leased our first trucks, and people would call other radio shows and
Right.
say, I'm getting 7.5, and the guy would say, you're a liar.
Right. Right. There's no way you're doing that good, man. What's wrong with you, you big liar?
Right.
That's one of the reasons the cost of trucks will continue to go up,
Right.
because they are going to take some of those savings. They being the manufacturers, they're going to take some of those savings for themselves, and of course they've got some research and development that goes into it, but they're making a profit on that, and that's just the way it goes.
Hey, Sue, we were factoring on the outside financing between 8 and 15% as the range, depending on down payment, creditworthiness, years in business, all those sorts of things. Just to answer your question, sorry. I think I said that right. There was something here. Oh, Tom Bell, let's go back to Tom Bell real quick. TruckerCFO, when I win the Mega Millions this week, should I keep my trucking job for a while? I mean, there would be some obvious changes like a huge sleeper and gold door handles, but
Yeah, they should come out to the Expedite Expo and look at some of the sleepers on those trucks.
Right? That place was amazing, man.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And what were those trucks? I think 350 and at a minimum.
Right? Yeah, that's what Frank was saying. 350. It was like, screw that.
We had a great dude out there. In case we didn't mention it before, I think we did, but Frank Rubelo, that dude is just, oh my God.
Frank's
that guy's got
dude.
So much information.
Yeah, so we're actually gonna see if we can't snag him at some point.
Yeah,
because this dude, and you guys know how rare this is. When I asked him about his operation, he didn't just tell me, "Oh, I make this." He got his phone out, went to his FedEx website, logged in, and said, "Well, this truck's doing this. This truck's doing this." See,
the man opened up the books.
This is my star team that I don't ever call because they just do so well for me. And he literally just showed me, this is where we go to see our numbers. It showed me the numbers on his truck, the raw numbers. And I was like, wow, nobody does that. So he was a pretty awesome guy to talk to. Do we want to?
So I think I've made my argument, and
okay.
There I think there are some uncertainties there, and that's what brought me to this point.
So I still think. So can I do my argument now, since you?
Of course.
So Charlie rests. We're gonna let Jeff come in and make his, and then I'll be the judge, jury, and executioner.
Look, I moved my microphone away.
So I think if you're running the numbers, and if you're in this for longer than 20 minutes, that it's going to pencil out to buy the truck out, even at that premium. Because, and here's why, Colton. I understand that, like Charlie's truck, we're looking at about a $15,000 premium to buy that truck out. But he knows that truck. He's maintained that truck since it got off the showroom floor. When you buy a used truck, you don't know. Anytime you change trucks, you don't know what's the maintenance really going to be on that truck. I haven't seen it yet, but I know that you guys had this argument. Well, what about the maintenance? The maintenance on my truck is really low. I just told you what it was last year. The year
I needed to
before
ask you something on that. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure one thing. Did you have any repairs that got set up for depreciation, meaning it was too expensive to expense, and so you had to amortize it or take Section 179?
No.
Okay. Then you're
good there for it, honestly.
I didn't even. Yeah. The year before was different. I actually had it in the shop for almost a week at one point. I can't even remember what exactly it was. Yeah, and this was before I started doing my own wrenching too. But I think last year it was closer to 12,000 for 2021. But you're at that. I'm at that life cycle right now too, just so everybody knows, where things are just breaking because they're old.
Like Charlie.
I mean, so I'm doing things like airbag, alternator. This year I had to do water pump already, things like that are breaking. But I'll use the water pump as an example. That water pump went out at about 850,000 miles. And I'm kind of just hoping that I get 850,000 miles out of the new one. It wasn't that expensive. It was under $1,000 for the part.
Yeah, I went like 1.5 on mine. Everybody was baffled by it.
Right. So the maintenance is not what people think it is, especially on the newer trucks. As long as you've been maintaining it the whole time. I've always got to put that in there.
It wasn't my water pump. It was a compressor. Sorry.
You are not recognized by the chair.
I apologize.
So I think if you're in it for the long haul, even at that premium, you've got a truck that that you've maintained for that 4 years. And so your maintenance cost is potentially going to be lower than going to Aero Truck Sales and buying someone else's problem potentially. I like Aero Truck Sales. That's why I mention them all the time. I think they're one of the more honest games in town. They're a national used truck dealership. They have really good in-house financing, if you guys are interested in that, by the way. And they get a lot of these fleet trucks, though. And you guys know that Swift, God bless their souls, they don't even do all the maintenance that's on the sheet on those company trucks. They just don't. So you really roll the dice every time you get a new truck, regardless, whether it's brand new, used, whatever. You're going to roll those dice. And those of us that have had lemons and suffered through that are really reluctant to swap out trucks, by the way.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at, so I have to concede that Charley may be different because of how long he might be driving. But if you're going to be driving for another decade, your return on investment, the total ownership cost of the truck, that's what you need to be looking at. I mean, I penciled it out the other day, Colton. I think it was while we're at your booth. I took Charley's $202,000, I think is what I actually calculated it out at, and said, okay, if this truck really did go 2 million miles, you're looking at 3 cents a mile for total ownership cost on the purchase price, not counting maintenance, but on the purchase price, that's only 3 cents a mile over its life cycle. That's crazy low. What business out there has that low overhead on a piece of equipment?
Yeah.
So that's my argument is you got to look at when your ROI is, and then when you start actually making money on that asset. And you can speak to this more eloquently than I can, Colton. But I think one of the mistakes people make is, since we're profitable from day one, people don't look at it in terms of you're not really profitable until you get to that ROI on a piece of equipment, because you're still paying for that equipment.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an asset you own until you don't owe anybody any money on it. And then you start accumulating wealth after that point, because now you've got a paid for asset that if you had to, you could sell it. I could sell my truck for about $45,000 right now if I needed to. I tell people all the time, and I know it sounds snooty, and okay, I'm snooty about it. If I turn the key on and I move the truck, I make money.
I miss those days.
My total,
not gonna lie,
my total fixed cost per week is less than $150 a week. Okay. Chew on that one.
It hurts.
So when Swift comes to me with these 400-mile loads, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna make about $500 on that profit.
Just for comparison, I'm $117 a day. Fixed.
Is that what you're at? Yeah. And Sue Smith has really been on our cases about, hey, you need to know that number, by the way.
That's why I know that number. She kicked me in my junk.
So if you want to know that number, here's how we came up to it. You take your weekly fixed cost, multiply it by 52, and divide by 365. And that gives you your, I love it when Colton nods like I'm right.
Right? This makes you feel good, right?
Yeah.
There you go. That's the direction.
And that gives you your daily cost of that truck. And then you can figure out, I need to drive this many miles a day to make that payment. And you can estimate fuel. I do estimate fuel when I'm taking loads. it's not very accurate, but I can at least at this point I can quickly look and say, okay, that's going to take about 100 gallons,
Right.
and in this lane, I know I'm going to pay 383 a gallon, so I can figure out if I'm profitable or not really quick. And when the market comes back, and Sue can vouch for me on this one, this will be you, Sue. When the freight comes back, which it's starting to, and you can say no to loads again, which right now it's not advisable because the work is the work right now. But when the freight comes back, do those calculations, and maybe you don't take that 300-mile load. Maybe you say, no, I need 500-600 miles because I've got this much a day I've got to pay.
But
Or
if you don't know that number, you're never going to be able to make that decision.
right. And Sue's got my next point lined up for me. Thank you, Sue. The other thing to consider is I depreciated that $56,000 balloon payment. Once I had the pink slip, I depreciated the truck over 3 years. So in the end, Colton, it's something I never fully understood, but in the end, basically, I didn't pay for this truck because of depreciation. But what happens when I sell the truck?
You're going to have capital gains. You got to pay some back. It always
right.
catches people by surprise.
I took a hit in depreciation because I was given some really bad advice and I didn't know any better. So I took it all in the first year and did not. Oh man, did I take it in the short hairs on that one?
Yeah, it
Good
happens.
God.
It happens a lot. Yeah, it's a concept known as basis and
Right.
Tax basis. And so you take that truck, you depreciate it over a period of time. Usually with these trucks, they are 3-year assets that get depreciated over 4 years. And over the period of time, as you depreciate that, you're losing tax value. So if you buy a truck for 150 and you've got basis of 100 because you've taken 50,000 of depreciation as an example, and you turn around and sell it for 90, you're going to have a loss of $10,000. If you
Right.
turn around and sell it for 110, you're going to have a gain of $10,000. Now, it doesn't matter how much you owe on that truck. You might have that truck paid off. That's great. You're going to have some cash sitting there to pay off that tax debt associated with capital gains. What catches a lot of people is they still owe on the truck. They sell it. They have to pay off the truck. And oftentimes we'll see people in situations where if they've taken some upfront depreciation, that now they're in a situation where they don't have enough coming in from the sale of that truck to cover the tax liability associated with it. And that's where it can get dangerous.
It gets painful. It is absolutely one of those lessons that we fall back on. Education is expensive. There was an expensive learning curve I had on that one. I'm just going to throw that out there because I screwed myself over several years because of taking all that depreciation right up front instead of spreading it out and offsetting the taxable income. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah. I mean, there are, you can present scenarios where you take the purchase price and the interest, and you take a lease. You calculate out the total cost on both of those, and you can have the exact same number.
Right.
Okay. So you've got to evaluate it, and you've got to know how to do that. And from a tax perspective, you're going to get depreciation on the principal of the truck, and you're going to get the interest deduction for what you pay in interest. And then you're going to, on the lease side, you're going to have the lease deduction for your lease payments. So at the end of the life of that truck, in that all things equal scenario, you're getting the exact same tax benefit. But it's not very often things come up to be exactly the same in terms of a comparison. And so you've got to know how to calculate your tax difference between the different scenarios as well. I think that's what Sue's trying to point out.
I think,
and y'all still think you could do your own taxes? I'm just saying.
Right. Good luck with that. I feel good for people who are getting into this game in the last couple of years. Okay. Those of you who are starting out now, I think that you are in probably a wonderful spot, even with the market being what it is. I think that the amount of knowledge that is out here and available on YouTubes, the Facebooks, I mean, all these places, we're now getting access to people like Colton and Trucker CFO. You know, I used that 800-pound gorilla for way too long. That's where I got some really bad advice. And that advice that I thought was sound professional advice bit me in the ass. I mean, I don't know any other way to put that statement. It's not the preferred statement, but it did. It cost me a lot of money over the years. I don't even want to dip into it because it's going to hurt my brain to really dive into it. I know it cost me a lot of money. I couldn't tell you the exact figure, but because we have people like, you know, Colton here that have really stepped up and rather than just be a yes man and say, oh yeah, I'll claim whatever the hell you want to claim. We'll file whatever the hell you want to file. Sure, why not? You know, that's you're paying us money to be your consultant, so we're just going to be a yes man, which makes no damn sense to me at all. You know, when you hire, you know, a Colton and Trucker CFO, you're literally getting a CFO that's going to give you sound advice, right? They are going to give you their professional opinion from the years and years of knowledge and education and continuing education that I did not get from the other service. And I don't believe they will ever provide that type of service. There are some folks, a sole prop, you know, we figured out it was a couple bucks more to sign on with Trucker CFO for the sole prop with the basic, you know, lower tier service level. Jeff and I ran the numbers, and as you step up your game and you start needing more of the services available, then that cost actually drops over the 800-pound grill out in the world. And which is baffling to me because as you go into a higher tier with the other providers that are out there, you're getting less service and you're getting horrible freaking advice.
Right.
And I mean time and time again, if you can talk to anybody. Sorry.
Sorry. You know when are most mistakes made too? Most of the mistakes are made early on.
Right.
And those costly. Mistakes come with you, and they're costly, a lot more costly than a couple bucks a week.
Right. Absolutely. And this isn't a sales pitch for you, Colton. I don't want anyone to think that I'm throwing a sales pitch just for Colton. We love Trucker CFO. Absolutely. Hands down. We will recommend them 100%. However, the service he provides is what brought us here to that point.
Right. And, you know, just the conversation when we asked Colton to referee for us, he was like, absolutely, man, when you want to do it. You know? Right. Because I think this is an important thing. You know, guys every day have to make this decision. Do I buy out? Do I not buy out? And if you're buying out now and you don't have the $86,000, you're going to a bank, you're looking at that 8 to 15% interest.
Do you happen to know the average age of the commercial truck driver out there today, Colton?
I believe it's 56.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was right around 55 is what I thought it was. Yeah. So, I mean, you look at the base of truck drivers, there's a lot that's going to be needed very soon, right? So we have a lot of these younger guys come in and they're like, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And they sign up with the 800-pound gorilla and they're doomed from the start. You know, they utilize a fuel card that gives them no discount. Oh, but my carrier gives me a rebate. That's great. Okay, cool. You know, look, I get it. Carriers are in the business of making money. That's why they're business. But if you have options, such as, you know, ES Advantage, to buy fuel or NASTIC or something along those lines where you're actually seeing real discounts, you're getting set up with a Trucker CFO. You're getting set up with Seabright Insurance where, you know, we're paying 2% less on the cost of insurance of for the value of the vehicle. 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but that's $200 a month on my truck, just right off the top. You know, add those $200. There's $2,400 for the year, right? Add that into $1,500 a month in savings pretty steadily on a team operation with the ES Advantage fuel card. Add in, the legitimate advice you're going to get from CFO, and set yourself up to go through the actual planning process, how to plan your business. Just like you plan your day, you need to have a plan in place for your business. You need to revisit that plan, make adjustments, and drive on. So that's where I'm at. I'm actually at the point where I am revisiting my plan. My plan was to pay this truck off and move on, right? And just be happy and drive for the next 10 years and get my full value out of the truck. Didn't care what the 26 model was going to do on fuel mileage, because it wasn't going to be a thing for me. It was just going to be what it was. And if mine was lower, then it's lower. That's just how it's going to be, because I got the truck with 28 miles on it. I mean, hell, my fuel tanks were still sealed with the little magic foil sticker from Mexico when I picked the truck up. 162 gallons of fuel to put in that thing, just saying. Could throw in a full tank of fuel or whatever. Anyhow, but yeah, so I mean, I'm revisiting that plan. I'm rethinking that plan. And I think that most people don't understand that. And I can tell you that I was never given that advice by any other accounting agency, firm, company, CPA person that I've ever paid in my professional trucking career.
So I think we've made our arguments, maybe not as eloquently as we thought we would, but.
And Charley's an amazing genius. Just crap. My bad.
So I think I know the answer. Colton, what say you? Buy the truck out or not?
I say I'm going to pull out my inner politician, and it depends.
I knew it. I told you.
Yeah, we both kind of came up with this. We both came up with the same. Where because look, Jeff and I try to look at things objectively, right? And he's got his view, I have my view, and then we try to look at things from the other person's view. Mm-hmm. I don't know, it's crazy talk, right? I mean, why would you care about the other guy?
Well, Charley, what was my initial reaction when you brought this to me?
He told me I was a jackass.
I had this visceral. Oh, great! We've been telling people this stuff for freaking 2 years, and now you're gonna do this. Oh man, we're done. We're sunk. We're we're hypocrites now.
Right.
Yeah. So, and I'm not just saying it depends just because I've got the two of you up here, making your points about it. It really does depend. There are a lot of variables, and you absolutely need to run the numbers on the variables. We ran some of those numbers here a little bit, threw some stuff out. We can quibble over the interest rate. It does make a difference in the calculation. Yeah, maybe you can't get 8% today. In fact, most people probably can't. 12, 14, 15 is probably going to be a decent rate here, especially with the recent rate increase that we saw. So, those are all factors and variables that you got to factor in. Taking the known, the absolute known numbers when it comes to making these calculations today, more often than not, I think the numbers are going to play out to say buy instead of lease.
Right.
Okay. Not always, but most of the time. That being said, there are situations where the lease may be a better option. A lease may be your only option, given your financial, situation, what's going on in your life, your credit score, your cash, all of that stuff. Charley, that's not the situation you're in. You've got options. You could go buy, you could go lease, you could hang it up, whatever you decide to choose. But that's the other thing to factor in here. For Charley, he's ending, or he's coming to the end of his career. He's trying to decide, where do I want to be in 4, 5, 6 years? Am I still going to be driving? Do I want to have this truck payment? Where is the truck market going to be? What's going to be going on with it? There's all these unknowns that, by going the lease route, provides you a level of certainty, a level of I don't know if this is a word, knownness,
right?
that you can bank on, right? And you can look out in the future and say, okay, I'm preparing for retirement here. I need I need something that's more assured, and the lease might be that way. Then again, Jeff, you're on the other, a little bit on the other end of that spectrum. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, but I've got a good decade in me still.
Yeah.
I'm not the only the diabetes might get me, and
Diabetes.
I might not qualify for a medical card, but I've already been talking to Colton, my CFO, about options with
Yeah.
that too. So that's the other thing I want to point out, Colton, someone that is a client of yours, such as myself, and I'm facing this type of situation where I have to make a choice. I've been leasing a truck for 4 years. I maybe have half of the balloon payment, and my bank's going to float me a loan at, say, 12% for the rest of it. You would go over this with me one-on-one for my situation as one of your clients.
Yeah, absolutely.
That right there, folks, is the difference.
Right.
Tried. I know that there is an accounting firm on the East Coast that we didn't fully vet when we were looking for someone because we met you and you were awesome. But they offer similar service that you do, but they're on the East Coast. But it's pretty rare. Nobody else that we interviewed, talked to, seemed to have that level of service.
Right.
And that's worth a lot, right there. So you guys, you go with someone like Trucker CFO, you get that level of service. You can, I can tell you that he's a busy guy, so your turnaround is 24 or 48 hours or something like that, isn't it, Colton?
Yeah, it
To get back to
depends.
somebody.
Yes,
Uh,
I mean, I guess the important thing to point out here is I'm not a one-man show by any means.
Right.
I've got a staff in our office. Salt Lake City is where we're based out of. I've got a staff that's helping out. I'm a CPA. I've got others on the staff that are credentialed and have much of the same experience. I'm the face of the company. But you may or may not talk to me specifically about some of these things. It may very well get escalated to me. And by all means, I'm happy to talk to anybody. If you want to request that you have a conversation with me, there's a couple ways to do that. You can just simply ask by calling in. There's also a function on our website you can use to actually just go in and schedule an appointment with me. So, that being said, yeah, I may or may not be available at the given moment that you call. I may be out at the Expedite Expo, and it might be three,
Right.
4, 5 days, but before I return your specific call. But if you're going through the proper channels, going through the staff back in Salt Lake City, those things aren't going to get missed.
Yeah, and don't discount the information you get from Colton staff because like you said, these people are trained. These people, he's got registered
and
agents, he's got credentialed people that are doing the job at a professional level, and they will talk to you.
and one of the most impressive things about your staff, Colton, and you personally, none of you are afraid to say, "I don't know,"
Right.
and then go
I think
get
I
the
said it on
answer.
this show.
Yeah.
Why is that such a hard thing for some people to say in a professional line of work? I think it gives you more credibility. I don't know, but I will find out.
Yeah. I mean, the best doctor that I ever had, if I would ask her a question that she didn't know, she would be like, "I don't know, but I have a colleague
Right.
that is a specialist there. If you give me a day or two, I'll let you know."
Yeah, it's great.
Those are the people that you like to have in your corner, for sure.
I'm sure you had this the same way, Jeff, when you were in the Army, but the first sergeant comes to you and asks you a question. You don't say, you don't just make up an answer and try and wing it. You tell them flat out, I don't know the answer to that, but I will find out.
Yep.
That is a valid answer to first sergeant major, brigade commander, colonel guy. Don't try and BS an answer. And I can tell you that in my experience over the last since 2009-ish, I've gotten an awful lot of oh, that sounds close to cool.
Yeah.
Why not, bro? Really? Cool. Whatever.
Yeah,
man.
when I first joined the National Guard, I was in the artillery, and one of the things I learned early on was to keep the field artillery manual in my little backpack thing everywhere I went, because I was a private and I didn't know anything. And if I got a question, I would say, "Give me about 5 minutes," and I'd pull out the -20 and I would look it
Right.
up. And that impressed the
Absolutely.
heck out of people.
Krista Trucker's question here. The accounting service that shall not be named that most of us are using, you guys asked them about if they offer these in-depth services. I take it. So I can tell you, Jeff had a conversation with the president of that company.
Brilliant guy.
And he's a smart guy. Don't get me wrong. I don't like his company. I don't like the way his company does business. I am very open about that. I'm not saying that they couldn't be better someday. I can tell you right now, I believe they're absolute garbage for what you're paying. I will say that. That is Charley. Charley Mann said that on his own, not Contractor's Corner, not anybody else. I'm telling you that I believe they're absolute garbage for what you're paying.
So other firms, and it's not just the 800-pound gorilla,
Right.
by the way, other firms will tell you that they offer these services. Good luck getting it out of them.
Right.
I was with that other firm for 14 years and trying to get a hold of my consultant just to go over my P&L. Something I didn't understand. Yeah. Never could get that done.
I went a period of 14 months at one point where I could not get a consultant on the phone. 14 months.
And I think I told you all, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, when I had a question on my P&L. And I sent an email to Jessica, assuming that she was probably busy. And so I went out to go cut my grass. While I was getting my lawnmower out, she called me back and said, "Hey, you had a question." I said, "Yeah, let me get back to my computer so I can ask that question." I mean, it was just that quick, like within 10 minutes. So I don't think it's always 10 minutes. I don't want you to think that they're Johnny on the spot and you're
I bet it ain't going to be 14 months.
No. But they do get back to you.
It's not going to be 14 months, I promise you.
Sorry, I'm a little bitter some days. I apologize.
I'm going to do twice. We're going to do twice as good as them. I will promise everybody no more than 7 months. How's that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
That's worth every penny right there, Colton. But seriously.
Well, as long as you could get my taxes done before this afternoon.
Oh my God.
And it should have been done 2 months ago, but
right.
Yeah. That's what I'm bitter about. So
if you guys have any other questions for Colton, by all means, please throw them up.
Do you want to go over Hamy's questions?
Oh yeah, we had a bunch from Hamy earlier, and he's not here now, but at least I don't believe he is. But he had comments at 2:00. Yeah, I'm gonna start with the top. He came out with one of the best shows in last week. A lot of information to devour. I have to watch it again. Thank you.
I don't know if we told you, Colt, but we had Pittsburgh Power on last year to talk about the new engine.
Last week,
stuff.
It was great.
Yeah,
love those guys. Hamy said, my friend is planning to lease. What's your opinion? Because the MRP truck balloon payment is $30K, but the brand new is $80K on the balloon. There's no answers yet because there's a lot to process here. And the weekly payment on MRP warranty pay is about $600 and brand new is $660. I'm paying $670 right now. So I'm trying to help my friend, but it's hard decision between MRP brand new with only $60 difference, but the balloon is $50K different. He's planning on the Freightliner because I told him Freightliner is the Toyota trucks, cheap parts, easy fix, available parts. And if he gets the MRP, it's going to get he's going to get his company truck that he drives, but the drive tires are crap. Recaps, I should say. Can we tell us what to change the tire? Not recap before the MRP it or no. And if he gets the MRP, I'll tell him to put 20 cents a mile on maintenance so his maintenance account can pay off the balloon at the end of the lease, like I did on my 2016. Now, that's the end of that. And there's a lot to unpack there. So
I want to address the tire thing first because that's the low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
They will not replace those tires. It'll come as is.
You could try to negotiate. I've seen it happen.
On a company truck going owner op. I don't know about that.
I actually have seen a couple. Honest to God, it's a matter of going and talking to somebody, not being a jerk about it.
Yeah, he needs to go through Michelle if he wants to do that.
Right.
So Colton, so what he's talking about, the MRP program is the maintenance repair program. It's a different lease than what Charley and I did. And the next thing I want to unpack is the 20 cent a mile maintenance account. He's not going to be able to afford that.
Right.
And here is why. Because in this program, Colton, the MRP trucks come with a warranty, quote unquote, that you pay for. It's like an extended warranty that you would get at a used truck place.
Under 500,000 miles, you're paying 7 cents a mile. Once you break the 500,000 mile mark, it goes up a penny per 100,000.
Right.
That's
and
a mandatory. Yeah, you don't get
right.
to
It's
touch
compulsory, and you don't ever see that money again, unless it's used to repair the truck.
So you pray you blow an engine 3 days before the end of the lease.
So it's not your money.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know what happens there on the tax side of things? This is a question we get a lot. Sorry, I don't mean to throw another squirrel into the equation.
No, I honestly don't.
So it would show on the settlement, it shows as MRP and the cents per mile and the total for that week. So since that's money that they never see ever, they don't have access to it. If they never have to repair the truck, Swift just takes it.
Yeah, if they leave, they never get that money. So it's a tax deduction as it's being as it's coming out of their settlements.
Okay.
Right. Whereas if it's going into escrow and you have ownership of that money, you get that money if you leave or otherwise. Then it's essentially a balance sheet item, and you don't get to expense it until you use it for whatever purpose that escrow was set up for.
Right. And so there's that part of the maintenance side. We call it a warranty. They don't call it a warranty, but that's basically what it is. It's a very expensive warranty. You can have the option to have a maintenance account like you've seen on my settlements that is in escrow. And so that would be the tax situation you just described. It's in escrow. It's mine. I can withdraw it if I want, or I can leave it there, but I'm going to get taxed on it if I don't use it. But you and I have talked about this before, Colton. It only gets taxed once, right? Like once it's taxed, you don't pay. Let's say I leave it at $20,000 and just leave it at $20,000. I could get taxed on that 20 grand that initial year, but they're not going to tax me on the rest of it ever again, right?
Right. It's essentially income to you. You're not getting a tax deduction until you use it for whatever purpose. So if you have $7,000, say, sitting in an escrow account that you've accumulated over a year, that's $7,000 of taxable income to you. If you use 3,000 of it the next year for whatever purpose, for maintenance, then that's a $3,000 tax deduction you get, and you've already been taxed on the 4 that remains, and so there's no impact.
Right. We'll get to Randy's question here in a bit.
Yep, I started.
So Charlie and I agonize over this.
We did.
And
we've completely flip-flopped on it.
We've come to the conclusion that it's best to just get the brand new truck.
Reasons being
that the warranty is too expensive for what it offers. It's not like it's a bumper to bumper. There's only certain components that are covered by that MRP.
And a lot of it's an 80-20 split. You pay 20, they pay 80. On the other covered items, it's the opposite.
I mean, literally, the only time we feel it pays off is if you really do blow an engine.
Then you won.
Then you won. But yeah, that's our opinion on that. With a brand new truck, again, yeah, okay, so it costs a little more, but let's just keep it at the 7 cents. And you have that truck for 3 years at 100,000 miles a year. Let's put the right amount of zeros in there because
zeros are hard. Math is hard.
That's 300,000 miles times 7 cents a mile. That's $21,000 right there. And again, it goes up after 500,000, but we're just going to use 7 cents to make it easy. So that's $21,000, and the balloon payment is like 30.
Yeah, 35.
So your real thing is $56,000. And let's use Charlie's number. So in the end, you got $30,000 spread instead of the bigger spread. With a new truck, it's not going to have the potential maintenance problems of an old fleet truck.
Right.
So that's
And
where
that's
we
what most
fall.
of these are, is older fleet trucks. They're
Right.
2 to 4 years old, 2 to 3 years old, I believe.
Yeah, they have to, before they'll do the MRP on a truck, it has to have a certain amount of mileage on it before they'll do that. So there
Close
is a
to the end of its
program
warranty.
that people do make this deal. Like in 4 years, Charley could have his truck moved over to the MRP program as long as it meets all the criteria.
Right.
Mileage, the maintenance has been done properly, all that stuff, which gives him another 3 years to come up with a balloon payment. So I guess, if you can't finance, it's better, I guess. I'd rather just have a new truck at that point. But
Right. Right.
But yeah, that's what we're looking at on that. You got to do the math every which way. You can't just say, "Oh, look, the balloon payment's $50,000 less." Well, but then you're paying an extra $21,000 for that warranty that you may or may not need.
Right.
That doesn't cover what you think it does.
Just to address life on 18 wheels, you get 2 maintenance accounts for MRP. The other one you can withdraw from after $3K, but you have to keep a minimum of $3K in it. That money would come back to you should you terminate the lease, you leave, whatever. Once they've sorted out all the pennies that you owe them for whatever, you would get that money back. It's held in an escrow. But they require you to maintain $3,000 in it. If you have more, that whatever, and you can access that money. That is not the part of the MRP side of that, though. That is a separate maintenance account. So there are 2 separate escrow accounts. Can you really call the other one an escrow account? The compulsory one?
Taking it.
You're right. So I don't know that I would. They address it as a escrow account. I think that's a weird word. Anyhow, so we're not talking about that. Life on 18 wheels. We get that you have access to that side of it. It's the compulsory side that Jeff and I have a problem with. And when they first started the program, the balloon payments were only between $11,000 and $14,000 because of the truck market being what it was. Then they jumped, and it, you know what? It penciled out at that point. It really did. It penciled out really well, and I was like, jump on it. And then they had a bunch of people come in, sign MRP leases, and paid off the truck and left, and got a truck at below market value. Never pulled a load for Swift, and they lost their asset and never got anything for it. So that's why they jumped the price on the balloon up to in that.
Well, and the used truck market skyrocketed.
Right.
That was the other factor.
Yeah, like Blackbeard's at that 13K mark. So he was in the early end of the MRP program. And I believe that his will do well. And I think that his pencils out. I think that when you hit that 30K mark, things change. And Randy, no. That was just fun to just end it there. So the excess mileage account, if you intend to purchase the truck at the end of the lease, every penny you put into that excess mileage account, 100% goes towards the purchase price of your truck. For those of you who don't know, Swift has IEL has a deal where if you do over 10 or 11,000, I can't remember off the top of my head, 10 or 11,000 miles in excess of, if you exceed 10 or 11,000 miles each month, you are charged 9 cents per mile for every mile above that amount every month. That goes into an escrow account. If you buy the truck out at the end, they put that towards the purchase price. If you do not purchase the truck, if you lease another truck, they'll actually take 80% of that. And this is not in the contract, so it is subject to change. It is not in black and white. There's nothing in the contract that says this 80% number. It's just something they've done. So understand that it is not contractual. It is something they have done. And they will tell you about it, but you won't find it in the contract. If you lease another truck, they will typically put 80% of that excess mileage account towards your new lease. And then again, if you buy it out, they'll put that money towards it. If not, they're going to keep it. If you walk away and leave Swift and you go back company, yeah, they're keeping 100% of that excess mileage paid because it's miles put on the truck that they believe they need money for to offset the resale value of the truck. That was a lot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was. Take a breath.
So, okay, wait. This is a good follow-up. But is that excess mileage a tax deduction or not? If so, when would it be a tax deduction?
So you don't have, Colton, you don't have access to this money until you actually purchase a truck, until you're at the point of buyout.
At any point, let me ask you this way. If you leave, like, is it Swift's money or
Yes.
is it your money? They're just kind of controlling it.
If you leave, it's their money.
Okay. If you leave and it's their money, it is a tax deduction as it's coming out of your settlement.
Okay. So then when you buy the truck out then though, and they take that money and say, hey, good job. Here's that money that we took from you towards your buyout. At that point, you're going to get taxed on it though.
Let's see. So I would have to see how they show that on the finance agreement on the purchase.
So I don't have it because it's been 2 years and it's buried somewhere, but the way it looked on my invoice for the buyout payment was $56,000 minus my completion bonus, minus my over mileage escrow was actually listed.
I would assume it shows
like
as a
that.
credit.
So they're calling it a bonus.
No, I had a $10,000 completion bonus that was awarded to me for completing the lease.
Also separate from this.
So that was a separate line item, and then right below that, the line item was over mileage account, and that went towards the buyout.
And that would show as a credit at that point.
Yes.
Did they 1099 you on that amount in that year or in the prior?
In that year, yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to work through that and see exactly how the cash plays out when it plays out. But it sounds like you're getting a tax deduction in 1 year, and then you're getting that money back in the next year. You would take it as income, taxable.
Wow, that just hurt my head. Not gonna lie, I was trying to like process that and work through that, and I'm like, it just smoked. It just broke. It's gears grinding. It was awesome.
Yeah, that and that's where depreciation worked well for me, Colton. It's because that was $14,000 between the bonus and getting that money back out of them. That's $14,000 of income that I didn't actually earn. But my depreciation wiped it out. So.
Yeah, one of the trucks that I actually got rid of was I had a 2016 680 that had something like $22,000 in the excess mileage account, because it was back when I was mentoring and hard teaming and all that, real truck driving stuff. And I walked away from that lease, signed it over to team drivers that I had, and they took over that truck, and they made out like bandits on that.
Yeah.
But then they turned the truck in and took 80% of that money that I'd put in there and put it towards the next truck. So good on them. I'm just curious how that played out on their taxes. And I don't speak to that person necessarily these days. They don't speak to me. I don't know. It's a weird thing. But yeah, so that's actually kind of interesting. I'm wondering how that all plays out once you get it all said and done in the wash. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And the best way to explain it is you just got to follow the cash.
Right.
Gotcha. So if it's your cash and your expense, then it's deductible. If it's your cash, if it's not your cash, then they're taking that money from you. It becomes deductible. But if you're receiving it as income and it's yours, that's cash inflow and it becomes taxable.
Right.
So just kind of follow the cash. Whose money is it? Or whose expense was it?
At what point, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is why we hire.
That was painful.
This is why we hire smarter people than us for certain things.
Right. And we talk about this all the time. And just to go back to the expo thing, Expedite Expo. So Jeff and I and Colton, we were all surrounded by amazing people there. Like, it was crazy. Like, every time you turned around, you were having a conversation with someone who, one, was not afraid to ask questions or had legitimate knowledge they could share, and ran into a couple people who said, not quite sure, let me find out. and then came back and gave you the answer from the trusted source or the authority on the subject. It was so cool. Like, so many people walked up to Colton and asked him questions. And just for fun, it was fun to watch Jeff, because Jeff put like his salesman hat on and he was like, woo woo, I'm back in my sales groove. And he was having fun talking to people about, CFOs services and things like that. So it was cool to watch. But if you guys have never been to a truck show, this was, or those of you who have been to truck shows, this was a different beast.
So here's what, and Colton's already slapped us for our
Repeatedly.
apologetic attitude. But so here's the thing, guys, and my Swift family, you'll understand this. This was an expo full of business people.
Right.
Like legit business people. We did not have to say, well, yeah, we're at Swift. They didn't care. They asked us how our businesses were going. They asked us some questions. It didn't even faze these people that we were from the Evil Empire company.
Right? Weren't shocked that we've been there 15 years.
Yeah,
we weren't.
Yeah, I think the most we got was 15 years, man. Why were you there for 15 years? But then they let us explain it.
Right. And they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you got a good deal, you got good relationships, you've got a solid revenue stream, steady income. Why not? And a lot of these people actually started their careers, their businesses at Swift, which was kind of refreshing to see that there are all these options. Sorry, I can't help it. We had a really good time at that expo.
Well, that was the point of bringing onto the radio who I brought on, was to show that it doesn't matter where you're at in this industry, what type of freight you're hauling. There are opportunities everywhere.
Right.
And if you find a groove that works for you and and understand that operation, you can be successful. You can make a good living. And it doesn't matter where you're at or who you're driving for. Find what works for you.
Right.
And make the most of it. And that might be FedEx Custom Critical for Frank. It might be Swift for Jeff and Charlie, and it might be somewhere else for for somebody else. But what I would say is you've got to work on it. The grass is not always greener other places. I see a lot of that right now. People jumping ship because there's no freight. Well, of course there's no freight. There's no freight anywhere. Right? Like, and not legitimately no freight, but freight is down. We got people going out of business left and right because there is an overcapacity of trucks for the amount of freight that's out there. It's just the way it is. And so if you've got good relationships, don't burn them just because you're in a down market. Do what you can to continue to make money in this down markets, and then build on those relationships, and you'll be better situated for when you come out on the other side.
Right.
Hey, Colton, go ahead.
And you and I talked about this, Colton. One of the best things, it turns out, that happened to me was leasing my first truck just before the Great Recession. About a year into my first lease, the economy just went, that whole 2009 bubble burst, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it was almost like my first day in basic training all over again. That moment that all people have, where you go, what have I done?
And I talk about naive. That's about when I jumped in.
Right. I at least had a year under my belt, But
I
you know what?
Face first into death. It was great.
I learned how to run my business more lean. I learned about fuel mileage. I learned about properly maintaining the truck because I couldn't afford for something really bad to happen with the freight the way it was. And guys, so those of you that have not been around as long as Charlie and I, our rate at the time was 89 cents a mile loaded.
Mine was 95. I came in just after they had a big bump because they were hurting for people.
Yeah. So we were 96, not making,
and then I lost a penny.
We were not making near what we make now, and we survived.
And the fuel surcharge was crap because fuel prices were actually really low then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was like a weird time.
Yeah. This it just goes to show that you can have a plan and execute on that plan and be successful. And it's a mindset that independent contractors and owner operators need to have. If your mindset is, I just want to sit in the seat and drive and make money, go be a company driver.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. A lot of times people, I'll get some kickback and people think I'm, downplaying being a company driver.
Oh,
I'm
no.
not at all. It's just, you got to understand where you're going to be successful. If that's your mindset, if that's what you want to do, then that's where I feel you best fit in this industry.
Right.
But if you want to be an independent contractor and an owner operator and be successful at it, it goes beyond just sitting behind the wheel.
Right.
Right. There's a whole nother side of things that you've got to know and understand and work at to be successful. It's a business, and there's a big difference there.
Yeah, I mean, and I was gonna showcase Coach's ugly sweater here anyway, but you segued right into it. I know my numbers. That's why I say a company loser. Laughing my butt off. And zero skin in the game has its advantages. I
Sure.
can't argue with that. What I could tell you for me, I know you've watched this for a long time, Coach's ugly sweater. You know what I tell people? One of my main reasons I do what I do is I just like the game. I like solving these problems for myself. I like being in a. I mean, okay, so it kind of sucks when it comes to the end of the month. You're $100 short for the mortgage. That sucks. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but I kind of get off a little bit on that. How do I solve this problem?
Right.
Being a company driver, honestly, kind of boring to me. Being in business is a lot more fulfilling to me personally. And again, if that's not your thing, Colton, I used to be famous. Our OOC, Dana Nelson, used to send people to me that wanted to be owner operators, knowing that I would talk them out of it.
Right. That was our job for a long time.
Because the first thing I would do is I would show them my settlements and all my deductions that I had to pay every week, and that, oh no, never mind.
They ran.
If that scares you, if I can't get to the point where I tell you how I actually make money, if just looking at the number scares you, then that's an indicator.
Yeah.
I would tell people absolutely do not lease a truck. You're an idiot. Don't lease a truck.
I never.
The worst
I was
way.
Nicer.
I did this at recruiting tables with. In fact, I did it one day with the old VP of the owner operator division and the number 2 of Swift Transportation sitting at a table one day. Had 3 different people walk up, and I talked them out of leasing and told them they'd be fools to lease a truck from Swift. And you know what? The BP and the big man said? Not a word. They're like, he's not wrong. It's not the best way to do it. Is it a way to do it? Absolutely. It seems to be. I'm not so down on it now because we're talking years of difference. Lease terms have changed. The contracts have changed. There was a point when things were far more predatory. It's history. It's there. They don't hide from it. They don't want to talk about it. Let's be real, but they're not hiding from it. You can talk to those people who were here back then, and they'd be like, "Yeah, it was a little shady." Old owner, whatever, and that was fine. I again, it's not the best way by any means to get in, but for a lot of people, like Colton said earlier, it could be the only way for some people to get in, and that's what led to Contractor's Corner being born. There are many people out there who are professionals and give great advice, but if you're in a lease, they're like, screw you, you're an idiot. Well, yeah, we don't believe that. We believe that it's a market that needs to be served. They're here. There's thousands of you guys, us.
Right. I mean, we will tell you this straight up. Yeah, that's going to be tough, but you're in it now. So let's help you make money. Let's get you to where you can buy a house. You can take care of your family, solve all these challenges that come with leasing trucks versus owning trucks. It's got to be thousands of people a week that sign up for these things, right?
I mean, frankly, there are fewer of them out there. Yeah, I don't know what the total number is, but there are fewer of them out there. I mean, you've got crackdowns through California. Obviously, you've got
Right.
AB5. I mean, there has been a shift away from it over the last few years, but they are still there, and there are really good programs. And in fact, we talk about it in our business guide. You can download our
Right.
business guide at Trucker CFO. And one of the things we talk about is this specific decision. What are the pros and cons? And there are pros
Right.
and cons to all of it. Not just cons on leases, and not just pros on financing your own truck. You got to understand all those pros and cons. Free document, you can go download it and take a look. But the main point I like to make is just that it's a mindset that you've got to have coming into it. And if you came into it with the wrong mindset, you need to change that mindset as quickly as possible, because you're just not going to be successful if you don't look at this as a business owner, and understand at least some of the basics of what it is you need to be doing as an owner compared to running a company truck.
Right. And that's definitely something that we see a lot. It's the reason why we came up with the term "stop paying for a job and start owning your business." A lot of guys, they get dollar signs in their eyes, and then they go run their lease truck the way they ran their company truck.
Right. And for those of you who don't know,
just not a good way to make money.
Yeah. Colton mentioned the say the whole title, Colton, because I can't. My brain's broken.
The Trucker CFO's Comprehensive Business Guide Part 1. How's that?
What I have up on the screen right here is the table of contents. So there's a lot of really good information in here. Like seriously, I'm not a reader, so it took me forever to get through it. It's not that it's difficult; it's that I don't hold it. So I actually have to read it out loud to myself. It's like I'm 12 or 6 or 3, because whatever. And so, but to do that, the information that was in this thing, is absolutely amazing. We had a question actually. Is there still a way for someone to get a hold of the tax guide you put out?
Yes. I was actually just checking my website to see if it was still there. And I'm actually not seeing that link. So it has been discussed, and we want to make it continue to be available. It used to be right here in this spot on the website that you were showing.
Okay.
It's not there anymore. So actually, I believe one of you guys have a copy, right?
I do somewhere.
Okay.
I know I have it.
Yeah. So that's your homework assignment, Charlie, is to go read that if you haven't already. But
Yes, sir.
so we will make it available again, and same type of thing as with the business guide. You just got to put in a little bit of information, because we want to be able to follow up with you. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to
Right.
sell your information, all that other crap. We just want to be able to follow up with you. We do this stuff with the hopes that it'll be good information for everybody, and that from that you might consider signing up for our services. And
it's worth the
let us help you.
conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the benefits
Absolutely.
of it all by itself, I promise you. I mean, look, even if you don't sign up with CFO, which I don't know why you wouldn't at that point, even if you don't, the conversation you will have will probably leave you going, man, I just learned some cool stuff that I just didn't know, or fix some misconceptions maybe you had. So, have the conversation. What's going to cost you? A little bit of time.
Yep.
It's totally worth it, and I think that you all will find benefit to that. We will definitely put it's scrolling across the bottom right now. You go to info@truckercfo.com for any questions. You also can go to www.truckercfo.com for the website, and the number is scrolling across the bottom of the screen as well. So by all means, reach out. There are ways to get there. There is many ways to get there and get that information. So don't not get the information. That's crazy. It's like we tell people all the time, if you have a question, ask your question. At least 10 other people have your question, and for whatever reason don't want to ask the question. Well, guess what? You can be the savior of those 10 people by simply asking a question and then being able to share that knowledge. That's what we do. We share knowledge. The more of us that learn more, the more of us that learn together, we grow. It's community. And today's the last day. Today's the last day to get that 10% off deal on the private community site that we have set up. If you go to contractorscorner.cc, you'll see it right there at the top. That deal is going to be going away at midnight tonight, and then it's going to go back to full price. It is a very small community and growing, and we expect it to be just a slow, steady build. And we think that the people that are there are going to do much better because of the community aspect of it.
And while you're there, check out my blog, Jeff's Action blog.
Whoop, whoop.
Yay.
One thing I wanted to point out, Charlie,
Yes, sir.
as you kind of gave me that wonderful pitch that I much appreciate.
Anytime.
Is a lot of times we'll get people saying, well, I just want to finish out the year, or, oh, hey, it's not time, oh, I need my tax return to get finished. There's no reason why you can't change now. We are all the time. We have clients coming to us that are using other services, and we will take the information that has been prepared for you to date. We will convert that to our system and then start fresh from that point in time forward. And that still allows us to do the tax return in full. Also, we'll do, as we're going through that process, we'll be able to review what was done to this point and point out any potential issues or missing information.
So not that we're trying to make this a great big ad, but seriously, go check it out. Hey, look, it's a no-brainer. It is one of those things, and I can't help it. I have a bad taste left in my mouth from other 800-pound gorillas. I want to build a little ad that people are going to yell at me for, but I'm trying to find an 800-pound gorilla that I can use that is like, not going to cost me $10,000 to use it in a video. And I have this fun vision with this thing.
Just rent a couple of gorilla suits, put Rich in one and put Rosie in another one.
Oh my God. That might be the way to do it. Live action. Yes. And I can use my shiny new camera.
Or you can get Rick. You ought to get Rick.
I don't think we can afford Rick.
I don't think I can afford Rick either right now. Maybe someday. But yeah. So
is the Colton interview on YouTube yet? Did you get
it is. It actually dropped I believe at 9:00 either yesterday or this morning. It is available for anyone and everyone to see. It's under the video tab on the YouTubes. It's called Trucker CFO interview at Expedite Expo 23. It's only, how long is that? I think it's like 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
And I think it's a great video.
What this is, guys, and we're pretty happy with it. This was actually produced by what's his name again?
Craig Thompson.
Craig Thompson and Rick Johnson.
Their
names are too close.
Gosh, they're really good people, and they did this for us and Colton. They got it all professionally done as kind of a proof of, hey, this is what we can do. Check it out. And it's just a really good interview, I think. I'm not all that excited about watching myself in that one. I told Donna, I said, I might need to go take some acting lessons now that I've seen myself in full 4K glory.
Right.
But hey, you'll learn as you go. But it's a great interview. I liked it. Oh yeah, there it is.
Check me out. Pulling stuff up as we go, just like bam, because they did cool stuff here. Like this was totally not produced by Jeff and myself. Hey, we're here at the Expedite Expo 2020. Anyhow, go check it out. I'm not going to play the thing on here because I'll get junk punched for sure by someone. I don't know who, but whatever. It's weird.
Well, what we would love for you to do is we'd love you to go to our YouTube page, watch it, like it, and comment on it.
Right. That I stopped that at a very inappropriate time with my face. I got to make that go away. God, that face is terrible.
See what I mean?
Good Lord. I do that to myself. But yeah, so go check that out. We are coming up on the end of our 2 hours, folks. TK, you mentioned earlier that you are
in another
still
brand new
really
truck.
low fuel mileage, and you're making me hurt, man. I think you said you were under 7 earlier or something like that. And I'm like, good God, man, are you still driving fast, TK? Because if you are, I'm just gonna fight you. Next time I see you, I ain't hugging you. I'm gonna punch you straight in the junk because we got it like that. I don't care. It's time for you to stop, sir. Stop it. You know, that's another great thing about Colton is he will tell you you're being an idiot, but he says it far more eloquently.
Yes.
Huh.
That's that. Look, let's be real. This is my job here. I'm going to tell you that it's the difference between Jeff and I. I'll tell you, you're an idiot. Stop doing that stupid thing. Jeff's like, well, what you really need to do is rethink the way you're evaluating your business. And I'm like, you're just a stupid idiot. And that doesn't help. It works with some people like me. Makes perfect sense.
Well, you know, it's like we've told you before, Colton. It's weird because we do tend to say the exact same things, just in a different style.
Yeah.
And there's people that absolutely hate me, and there's people that absolutely hate Charley, but they'll listen to the other guy. And we're like,
That's what
well,
makes it work.
Man,
we just told you the same exact thing. And by the way, I'm just
teamwork
gonna
makes
put
the
it.
dream work.
I'm gonna put it out there in the YouTuberverse. If you guys look behind Colton there, you will notice that he is one of those hunting type Utahns.
I am at that.
He's got the monsters. We saw some great pictures.
We saw some footage of him on one of his hunts, and now Charley is afraid of you, Colton.
A little bit. I think he's a better shot than I am. That's for sure. Especially with that freaking bow, man.
Yeah.
I'm not playing with bears and bows, bro. No, just not gonna happen because I will like nick him in the see. I'll nick that sucker in the eyeball and it'll eat my face. That's what's gonna happen. And I'll be like, oh God, I dropped another one. I need another. Knock another. No crap up. Blah. Charley's dead, or looks worse than he does now. Because
hey, it's important to have a good way to spend your downtime. And
absolutely.
For me, it is hunting, being in the outdoors, spending time away from people. I love you guys, but I got to get out there and get away from folks. And it is much easier to do that in the West than it is
right
out in where Jeff said he's at today. I think you said Illinois.
Yep.
Yeah. Good luck there.
Or New York or Jersey or even Florida, man.
It's all the same.
In Florida.
No, dude, I go out on my property, 178-yard range.
Oh, that's true.
Blink all day. I'm happy, man. In fact, I don't even look. There's days where I go out there and I tell my brother and Rosie and everybody, we'll go out there. I'm like, let's go shooting. I'll put my butt in a chair and not fire a shot all day. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, that's not true. I will have to. Here's the funny thing. I'll go out there and draw my pistol off my hip, not thinking about it, that I still got my defensive ammo in that magazine because I forgot to swap out to
you don't want
rounds.
It's expensive stuff, man.
Oh, dude, I've gone through so many magazines like that. And then I'm like, you're an idiot, Charley. See, I had these conversations with myself. You're stupid. Why'd you blow off all that money? That's like $14 a round at times. Good Lord, whatever. But yeah, so exactly. And oh, Sue said no downing Florida. No, we have a lot of good places to get away from things down here where we're at. We're up in what they call the nature coast area of Florida, and there's a lot of places to get out and explore the world. It's very cool.
Yep. I have not explored Florida enough, but I gotta say,
don't do it in August.
I want to get all five types of turkeys in the US. And one of the last places you have to go to get that fifth type is Florida. It's one of the only places you can get that specific type of turkey. So maybe I'll get down there to hunt some turkey and throw an alligator in there at the same time.
You could come get this damn turkey. Look, this is going to say bad things about my shooting, but I don't know why I cannot hit this damn turkey. I have gone after this great big monster hen. I don't know how many times. And it looked like a video game one day because I couldn't lead her right. I had this 22 AR that I was shooting out of, right? I was standing up and okay, there might have been a couple of beers involved, but whatever. And ping, she turned around, ping, she turned around, ping. That turkey, I went through a magazine on that and never touched the damn turkey.
Well, I need a Tom there, Charley. I can't be shooting hens and taking credit.
Look, I'm just saying I was looking for a turkey dinner. I'm not a trophy guy. I'm a meat guy.
Here you go, Colton. So this is a woman that will go fishing and come back with a wild boar.
Oh,
true story. It happened just a couple months ago. They were out just slaying fish. Like we had a meeting and Sue was on the boat while we're, in our meeting. and just hooking fish after fish. And then it was nothing they ended up keeping, but it was a great day of fishing. So then they're on their way back to the dock, and they're tooling along. And Grant, the other half of Sue, stands up. He's like, "Oh, look, there's a pig." Draws a pistol, pop, 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 drops the damn pig. I'm like, son of a good God, man. Went fishing, came back with a pig. I mean, I don't know where else you can do that, honestly.
Well, Sue, I would be happy to come anytime, because anytime you can combine hunting with good business conversation, it's a good day indeed.
Absolutely. It's fun. So with that, you guys, we're going to wrap this thing. We're right at our 2-hour mark. Jeff, Colton, either one of you got anything you want to throw out there one last time before we call this thing a wrap today?
It depends. That's the answer. It depends.
Right.
So make sure you evaluate your situation, and maybe we can get to an answer other than it depends.
And that is probably one of the most brilliant things I've heard in a long time, Colton. And I don't mean that facetiously. It's case by case, your individual situation. And that's what you get at Trucker CFO, an individual look. You're not getting that at the 800. Yeah, you ain't getting that at an 800-pound gorilla freaking cage show. I'm just saying. My bad. I got to stop it. Jeff has muted himself. He's probably on the phone with somebody. I don't know. Jeff?
There we go.
Good God, man. Amateur hour.
I don't know what happened.
You muted yourself. That's what happened.
So go check out the website, check out the blog. For those of you that have already signed up for the community, we do have a new video up that talks about how to get the most out of the community. Check that out.
Please.
Try to get that up a couple days, because it's not social media. You know, this is designed to be a resource. So check that video out. Business
101. It's coming soon, right?
Yes.
Yes. We're working on it. We got to get the fuel manager one out the door first,
right?
But man, so
have we hammered a day, Jeff? Is it going to be Thursday?
It's got to be Thursday.
The fuel manager class.
Because you're back out on the road on Friday. So
yeah, I'll be doing Target.
Yeah, my excuse, Colton, is that I had a freight scheduling conflict. So you know how it is right now. If they send you something, you probably out of work.
All right. With that said, we will get it out to you guys. The time on Thursday. We look, worst case, it could possibly get pushed to Tuesday. Hopefully not. But I will be back home come Monday, Tuesday, Jeff. Just so you know, I didn't tell you that earlier because I'm doing Target for the weekend. They called me and said, "Hey, man, we could really use some help. So if anyone's down here in the Florida area with a team truck, you might want to look at Target right now because apparently they are needing some assistance." So something to think about.
There you go.
With that, you guys, thank you for being here. Colton Lawrence from Trucker CFO. We thank you, sir. We look forward. That was the one thing I wanted to say earlier and I forgot. I'm going to come back real fast. You did an amazing chart graphic deal one day with on Todd's channel for Trucker Todd, for anyone who's curious. That was an amazing presentation. I would like to get you to maybe update that and let's see where we're at, because it was nice watching, seeing where the two peaks were converging. We were on the slope. I'd like to see where we are now. Maybe in the next month or so, we could dip into that and get a good visual on what's happening, because I think we're going to be in a better place market wise then as well. I think we might see those touching. So with that, you guys take care of each other. No one's out here taking care of us but us and our community, right? We're going to throw that community word around. I know you guys think it's woo, whatever, but we truly do believe in it. So thank you for taking time out of your day, spending it with us. We know your time is valuable. Thank you so much. I'm going to run the Seabright ad. So yeah, it's coming at you here. Thank you guys. You're awesome. We love you. We'll see you next week, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, right here on Contractor's Corner. We'll see you soon.
Paying too much for trucking insurance? What if you could save more by making one simple phone call and keep more profit? You could very well do just that with one simple call to Seabright Agency, 800-366-6466. Call now. With over 35 years in business, top shelf customer service, and innovative commercial insurance solutions, here's what our commercial trucking community says about Seabright.
I haven't had a claim as of yet, but I would rate them at a 5 just based on customer service. How nice everyone is when I call with questions. Robbie.
I am glad I made the switch. I saved roughly $450. A huge difference. Saving big with Seabright. Darlene.
I have nothing but great things to say. Incredible answering my questions, helping me set up my policy, making sure everything is correct. Super friendly. Anthony.
If you're a Swift transportation contractor, Contractor's Corner Consulting Group and Seabright have a special rate just for you. When you call, mention you are a Swift contractor and you are interested in the Contractor's Corner deal to save and keep more of your money in your pocket. Not a Swift contractor? No problem. Mention Contractor's Corner and let us show you the savings.
We asked the Seabright team to help us help contractors save and keep more money. What they came up with exceeded by far what we thought was possible.
Call now to see what you can save. Seabright Agency, 800-366-6466.